Donkey.
What is good, Cowboys Nation? Welcome back to the channel. Got an early morning stream for y'all. I don't normally do these, but I didn't get much sleep last night. Decided to wake up early. I got to make some videos today, pre-record videos, you know, all that jazz. Make some thumbnails, and I figured might as well just get the day started with an early stream. So that's what we're doing now. 9:43 in the morning as we fire this bad boy up. Now I did this last night, but it was pretty late. Not a lot of people came in and stopped by because it was super late. Alec was supposed to be on with me, but he had a bit of a rough day. I'm not going to, go in and detail everything that happened to him, but, just hoping he's having a better day today. Yeah, we're doing this again, reacting to the 53-man roster. If you are watching this live or watching this back after I've ended it, I tell this to everyone in my videos and my streams. If you're not subscribed to the channel, help me out, subscribe, make that subscribe button say subscribe if it says subscribe for you. Drop a like on the video, leave a comment down below. If you're in here as I'm live, come hang out in my chat. Occasionally I'll look over, answer some questions, yeah, that's basically what I tell everyone when I do my videos and my streams, so nothing new there. But let's go ahead and get right into it, man. I'm super excited to talk about this because for the past month or so, we've been talking about kind of dwindling down this roster, going through the previous cut dates, and it's all really led up to this. So on your screen right now is on the left the finalized, and I put that in quotations. We'll get into why I put that into quotations later, but the finalized 53-man roster on the right side is your COVID IR list, your preseason IR, your in-season IR, your physically unable to perform list, and all your cuts. So I want to start going. Well, before I go position by position, let's go ahead and discuss what the preseason IR the in-season IR and the COVID IR list is and all that stuff. So let me go back to that slide. As you can see on the COVID IR, CeeDee Lamb, Connor Williams, DeMonte Casey, Noah Brown, and Carlos Watkins. So those are all guys that will likely be on the 53-man roster come Thursday against Tampa Bay next week. By the way, I'll be at that game. Right now, though, they don't count towards the 53-man roster. So that's why you see guys like Azur Kamara, Matt Faranoik, if that's even how you say his last name, I'm not sure. Luke Gifford, Francis Bernard, and not CD, Connor, or KZ, or any of those guys on the left side of your screen. So that's what's going on there. They will all, like I said, be on the roster come next Thursday. So the Cowboys are going to have to make some moves. But wait, you got the in-season IR. So the in-season IR, essentially what this is, if you're looking at your screen right now, you got Neville Gallimore, Malik Turner, Sean McKeon, Chauncey Golston, Josh Ball, and Francis Bernard. Now, everyone except for Bernard and Malik Turner are confirmed to get transferred to this list at some point later today. They have to stay on the 53-man roster for a full 24 hours before they can get transferred to the in-season IR, because with the in-season IR, you're eligible to return. Unlike the preseason IR, which is right next to it, you got guys like Rico Dodal, Reggie Robinson, Siwa Lunawa, Anthony Hines, and Mitch Hyde on there. They're not going to be able to return this season. They're done. You get put on the IR before the final 53-man roster cut date, then you can't come back until next year training camp. So that's why the Cowboys have a separate list, separate IR list, and that goes for pretty much every NFL team out there. They all kind of do the same thing. This roster build is really confusing. I'm going to do my best to try and explain it. So going back to the COVID IR, you got those 5 guys that are coming off that list, going to be inserted into the roster, right? So it goes from, 53 plus 5 is 58. And then you got 6 guys on this in-season IR. So you take 6 minus 58. Now you have 52. So you have 1 extra roster spot to work with. So essentially just take everyone on the left side of your screen that's on that in-season IR list off the roster and insert everyone on the COVID IR list on the right side of your screen into the left side of your screen. I know that's kind of confusing, but that's probably the best way I can describe it. And then the physically unable to perform list, Tristan Hill, he'll be out for at least 6 weeks. I think he'll be able to return week 5 because of the bye. I'm not sure how that works. He's either going to be able to return week 5 or week 6. I'm not 1,000% sure on that. I just know that he's going to be out pretty much midway through the year. So I mentioned, 52 of 53 after all that crazy math. Jake McQuaid was a guy that the Cowboys released yesterday. And we'll talk about McQuaid. We'll talk about Justin Hamilton. We'll talk about Jeremy Sprinkle as all guys the Cowboys technically released, but probably winked at and said, hey, we want you to come back. Just because we cut you doesn't mean we're not interested in you. Like I said, you have 52 of 53 after all the COVID IR and in-season IR workarounds. So seeing how the Cowboys have a long snap right now, I have to assume that 53rd guy is Jake McQuaid. And we'll get into potentially a replacement for the injured Sean McKeon, another defensive tackle to replace the injured Neville Gallimore as we go through these positional depth charts. I want to start with the quarterback, Dak Prescott and Cooper Rush. Now, Cooper Rush, a lot of people wanted Garrett Gilbert. I understand why. I personally wanted Garrett Gilbert, but Jerry Jones on 105 through the fan yesterday made a very good point. Cooper Rush has been on and off with the Cowboys since 2017. That's a very long time. He knows what the Cowboys do on offense. He knows the system. He's been in the building for years now. He had a stint with the Giants, I believe. It was either last year or a few years ago. But other than that, it's pretty much been all Cowboys his entire career. So it makes sense considering they're both, let's be honest, trash quarterbacks. I don't know if the Cowboys even stick with Cooper Rush. We'll talk about Cam Newton here in a second. But Garrett Gilbert and Cooper Rush, essentially the same. It really came down to who has more experience. And I understand Garrett Gilbert did a really good job against Pittsburgh last year. That's one game, though. Cooper Rush, like I said, has been with the Cowboys for years now. He gets it. He understands it. And hearing that, not considering that at all leading up to this final 53-man roster in our prediction stream, it's kind of shifted my mind personally. I wish I would have considered that yesterday, or not yesterday, I guess technically the day before, because I technically didn't stream yesterday, even though I did. It was just super late. Now let's talk about Cam Newton, because everyone wants to talk about Cam Newton. And I'm going to make another video later on today going over Cam Newton and his potential link with the Cowboys, go more in depth on it, but just a little bit of foreshadowing. So Cam Newton, in case you're living under a rock, he was released by the New England Patriots as part of their roster cuts. Mac Jones is going to be the starter. A lot of people want Cam Newton to be this team's QB2. Before we, I love the optimism. I love the hope. I love it all, man. But let's put ourselves in Cam's shoes. He's an older guy towards the tail end of his career. The dude's got a career outside of football. He doesn't have to be playing this game right now. He's definitely got a career outside of football if he chooses to go that route. So with that being said, you're Cam Newton. You're probably looking for a starting job in this league. I'm looking at cities like Houston, Denver. He goes there. You're in Houston competing with Tyrod Taylor. You're in Denver competing with Teddy Bridgewater and Drew Lock. You come to Dallas, you're locked in as the number 2. You're not in a battle with Dak Prescott. Dak Prescott is this team's QB1, period. It's also kind of risky to keep him around Dak considering his vaccine status. I don't want to get too much into this because then politics comes up and I'm not doing that. But keeping a guy who's unvaccinated around Dak Prescott, I understand last year they kind of separated Dak and Andy Dalton, but they're all in the same building. Things happen. And they're both quarterbacks. So at some point their paths are going to cross no matter how much the Cowboys would try to separate them. Cam is unvaccinated. It's not confirmed, but we pretty much know it based on his whole situation towards the end of his Patriots career. I just don't feel comfortable having an unvaccinated quarterback next to Dak Prescott, considering if we lose Dak, we're screwed. Let's say we lose Dak for 2 games. That's 2 losses right there. I don't care who we're facing. Dak is the key to a successful season for the Dallas Cowboys, and I don't want to take any risks. So I like the idea of Cam Newton. I just think to bring him on, and I'm not saying you have to force him to get the vaccine, but if he wants to be a Cowboy, I think the Cowboys probably say, hey, if you want to come sign with us, if you like us, if you want to come here, you got to get vaccinated. If not, I'm sorry. We're not forcing it, but this is just what we feel is safe. I mean, it's FDA approved at this point, so I think the NFL can mandate it if they want. I don't think they will, but that's my fear with Cam Newton. If he was to become a Dallas Cowboy. Like I said, probably won't, though. At this point in his career, he's looking for a starting job. And like I said, there's cities out there like Houston and Denver that could, he could easily insert himself into a quarterback controversy late in this preseason's actually over. So early, I guess, on in the season. Wow, that's first time I really even came to that realization. Cool, man. Regular season, a week away. I'll be at that game, by the way. Cowboys Buccaneers. I've said it a million times before, and I'm going to keep saying it until we hit 350 subscribers, because that's the goal. By next Thursday, we want 350 subscribers. So if you're not already subscribed, hit the subscribe button. Let's move on over now to the running backs. Obviously, you have Ezekiel Elliott and Tony Pollard. Let me go ahead and show you guys the slide real quick. Ezekiel Elliott and Tony Pollard, clearly the 1 and 2, and that's it. Cowboys don't have anyone else, not even a fullback with them. So I think you probably look on the waiver wire for a third running back if you're Jerry, Steven, Mike McCarthy, whoever goes into making those decisions. Nick Ralston was a guy that I had initially making this roster. He could be another Jake McQuaid situation where it's like, hey, we're going to release you, but we want to bring you back. Let's say Zeke goes down. Let's say it's like week 2, right? Week 2, Zeke pulls a hamstring. He's not going to return at all the rest of the game. It's a 1-score game. You're late in the fourth quarter on the 1-yard line. You've already tried to pass twice. It didn't work. You got to run the ball. I trust Nick Ralston, a guy that we saw a video of him pulling a Ford F-150, I believe it was. I trust him on the goal line, on the 1-yard line, taking the handoff over Tony Pollard. We know Mike McCarthy likes using fullbacks. He used Aaron Ripkowski quite a lot in Green Bay. He even used defensive tackles Antoine Woods and Tristan Hill last year as fullbacks for the Cowboys in that offense. So we know Mike McCarthy likes the fullback position, even though it's kind of outdated in this modern NFL era. But I wouldn't rule out Nick Ralston as potentially a guy that could come back at any point during this season. Let's move on now to the wide receivers. My only note here, just keep Simi Fioco on the roster somehow, some way. Obviously, you have Amari Cooper, Michael Gallup right now. CeeDee Lamb will come off the COVID IR. He'll be a part of this receiving corps. Same can be said for Noah Brown. Cedric Wilson is a lock. I know the Cowboys don't necessarily need to bring 6 receivers with them, but you kind of have to brace yourself for Michael Gallup's exit. And I get it. You can replace Michael Gallup through next year's draft. You're going to get a compensatory pick if he leaves. But I like Simi Fehoko. A lot of teams like Simi Fehoko, by the way, coming out of this draft. He hasn't had the best camp. We've seen some highs from him. We've seen some lows from him. But the highs are really what's keeping me enticed. If you put Simi Fehoko through waivers, he gets instantly snatched. I'm looking at teams like the Packers, the Chiefs, the 49ers especially could use him. Elliot used the 49ers as a great example a few days ago, talking about how the receivers are just Brandon Ayuk, Deebo Samuel, and Mohamed Sanu. So you insert Simi Fehoko into that situation in competition for the number 3, number 4 receiver without question. I just think it's too risky if you want to hold on to Simi Fehoko to put him through waivers. I think for that reason you have to ride out with 6. I know a lot of people might not like that, but I just think that's the smarter decision, like I said, if you're bracing yourself for Michael Gallup's exit, because the Cowboys could have offered him a contract. They didn't. They have the money. They're pressed up against the salary cap wall, but that doesn't mean they can't move some money around if they really wanted to bring back Michael Gallup, and that was like a thing they were set on doing, like they were set on doing with Dak. They could have done that, but they didn't. So there's no guarantee Michael Gallup comes back, and like I said, you just want to keep Simi Fehoko on your roster. That way he doesn't get snatched by someone else. The offensive line, the Cowboys brought 10 with them. Obviously, Tyron, I should say, Lael, Zach Martin, Biotish, Connor Williams will be on this list pretty soon. Connor McGovern. Those were the roster locks. Tyan Secchi, technically a lock. A lot of people have some varying opinions on that one. Terrence Steele, Brandon Knight, Josh Ball will get transferred to the in-season IR here today, and Matt Farnoik. The only notes I really have here, waiver wire, maybe a trade for a swing tackle. Like I said, I know a lot of people have varying opinions on Tyan Secchi, and I get it. Tyan Secchi didn't really show us enough to get excited about through his preseason performance, and I understand the lack of confidence. I have it with Tyan Secchi as well. But the Cowboys just don't have any better options. I don't think there's anyone better out on the waiver wire either, so I think ultimately if you get a new swing tackle, it's through a trade. And there are definitely some assets on this roster you can use to trade for a swing tackle. Guys like Brandon Knight, if another team has a swing tackle but they want a more versatile offensive lineman. Dorrance Armstrong, Bradley Anae, those are 2 guys you could easily get rid of one of them, and maybe a team has a surplus of tackles. They can hand over a tackle if they need a defensive end. So I think the only way you acquire a new swing tackle is ultimately through trade. I just don't see a scenario where there's a waiver wire pickup any better than Tyan Secchi. As bad as Tyan Secchi's been, tackle is a very valuable position a very valuable position. I think I said value position. Goes the same way. Doesn't matter. It's just regardless a position that is not very thick at, more so thin, and if you have a good one, you have a good one, and you're going to keep him unless you get a really, really good offer. And I'm talking about the swing tackle, because swing tackle, I think a swing tackle is the most important backup position in football. I really do. It's make or break, really. I mean, look at the Cowboys. Tyron Smith, really, really good offensive tackle. It's not a matter of when he's going to go down. It's a matter of if, or not a matter of if. It's a matter of when. I got that wrong the first time. So that swing tackle position, protecting Dak Prescott, who's coming off an ankle injury, has the shoulder strain. Very important that swing tackle is reliable. So, like I said, very, very, very underrated position as far as backups go. I think it is the most valuable in the NFL. Let's switch over now to the defense. Start on the defensive line. Go with the defensive ends, man. 7 of them. That's a lot. Azura Kamara was probably the most surprising addition to this final 53. And like I said, I say final with quotation marks because it's not necessarily final yet. This is not the final 53-man roster you're going to be seeing heading into Thursday's season opener against Tampa Bay. But DeMarcus Lawrence, Gregory, obviously Terrell Basham, he's a little banged up right now, but he'll be on this roster for sure. Dorrance Armstrong and Bradley Anae, we talked about them as interchangeable, really. Leading up to this, one could have been dealt, still can be dealt. They're essentially the same player from a pass rushing perspective. I don't see the reason for the Cowboys to carry both of them. You could easily trade one of them and get back, like I said, a swing tackle. Chauncey Golston, who will probably start the season on the in-season IR, and Azur Kamara, his fate is undecided. I think he's probably the most liable person on this roster, and definitely the first to go if it comes to bringing back a guy like Justin Hamilton or Jeremy Sprinkle. But ultimately, I don't think it's a bad thing to have a lot of defensive ends. I know a lot of people want a lot of defensive tackles over defensive ends, but here's something you have to consider with our ends, our starting ends. DeMarcus Lawrence is approaching his age 30 season. He played through injury already last year, had a surgery in the offseason, and just now came off the physically unable to perform list. Randy Gregory, on the opposite side, is experiencing a workload like he's never experienced before in the NFL. And he's getting up there. I believe he's 27 right now. That's not old yet, but he's getting older, if you know what I mean. So there's no guarantee in a sport as highly physical as the NFL that they're going to be able to stay healthy, both of them, for all 17. So I just think the depth there is very important, which for me, if I was managing this team, I would have more defensive ends and defensive tackles. And it didn't look that way in the preview stream, but after sleeping on it, I've kind of come to that conclusion. So guys like Terrell Basham, Dorrance Armstrong, Chauncey Golston, when he comes back at some point midway through the year, going to be very valuable to this team's depth, especially on the defensive line. Let's go ahead and move on now to the defensive tackles. Brent Urban, Neville Gallimore, Osa Odigizua, and Quinnen Bohanna. Now, we all know Neville Gallimore is hurt. He probably won't be back till that Week 3 game against Philadelphia, Monday Night Football. Hopefully, I'll be at that game too. But the very, very thin at the defensive tackle position. Talked about just now, maybe get Azur Kamara off the roster and bring back Justin Hamilton. You need to get another defensive tackle because 3 is not going to work, especially considering you've only got 2 guys there that are pure run stoppers. So if one goes down, not that Osa Odigizua is not, I'm talking about the 2 pure run stoppers as Brent Urban and Quinnen Bohanna. I like Osa Odigizua as a run stopper, but he's not as big as Quinnen Bohanna. I don't have as much faith in him to make a stop on the 1-yard line as the other 2. But you need another defensive tackle, man. It's maybe not a guy that you keep necessarily all year, but just until Neville Gallimore gets back. And the Justin Hamilton cut was really surprising to me. I really thought the Cowboys would carry him with them and put Azur through waivers and have him eventually on the practice squad for another year. They opted to go the opposite way. Little confusing. Not really sure why they did that, but they did what they did. Like I said, Justin Hamilton, likely candidate to come back. I wouldn't be surprised considering how well he did against Jacksonville on Sunday. Had a sack, I believe, a tackle for loss that brought up, I want to say 3rd or 4th down. I don't quite remember. And then on the goal line at one point, poked the ball out of the running back's hand. So he had a really, really good game. And wouldn't be surprised if he's back on this roster next week. The linebackers. Now, this was a bit of a surprise. We kind of thought that it was just going to be 5. Micah Parsons, Keanu Neal, Leighton Vander Esch, Jalen Smith, and Jabril Cox. But they instead decided to tack on Luke Gifford and Francis Bernard. Now, Francis Bernard will probably end up on the in-season IR, just like guys like Chauncey Golston, Josh Ball. We've talked about them already, Sean McKeon. So that leaves you with Luke Gifford. Are you really going to bring 6 linebackers into the season with you? I don't think Luke Gifford is that important. I mean, I know he's a great tackler. He'll be utilized on special teams. That's what the Cowboys said themselves. So that leads me to believe that he will make it into Thursday's season opener. But I just don't think it's necessary. I mean, you have 5 linebackers already. And I understand there's some health concerns with Leighton Vander Esch and Keanu Neal. But, I mean, I don't really think that in one game you can get down to 2 linebackers. If one more person other than LVE or Keanu Neal both go down. So I don't think 6 is really necessary considering you really need depth elsewhere on this roster. But as a special teamer, I mean, it doesn't hurt, I guess. He had 11 tackles in yesterday's preseason game. He balled out, or not yesterday, on Sunday. I'm sorry, on Sunday's preseason game against Jacksonville. He balled out that afternoon. So I guess that's what earned him in this roster spot. I ultimately viewed him as a practice squad guy. I'll be honest with you. I was a little shocked that he made this roster, and I'm a little shocked that from what we're hearing, he's going to be on this roster next Thursday. Moving on now to the cornerbacks. 7. This was this was expected. Trayvon Diggs, Jordan Lewis, Anthony Brown, Maurice Kennedy, Kelvin Joseph, Nashawn Wright, C.J. Goodwin. Now, C.J. Goodwin is not necessarily a cornerback. He's more of a special teamer, but he has to be listed as a cornerback, so that's why he's there. Really, the Cowboys brought 6 true cornerbacks with them. Kelvin Joseph, it's rumored he'll start the season on the IR. Not sure. We don't know the severity of the injury, so I'm not going to say for sure whether or not that's going to happen. But if it does happen, that opens up another roster spot. Maybe you don't have to cut another person for a Nick Ralston if you already know you're bringing Jake McQuaid back. Maybe you can keep Azur Kamara on your roster or someone else if you bring back a Jeremy Sprinkle. So that's the whole situation with Kelvin Joseph. That's all I know as of this moment. But as far as who they brought, I have no issues with them. The safeties, another group I don't really have an issue with. Malik Hooker, Donovan Wilson, Jaron Kearse, Israel Mukuamu. DeMonte Casey is going to come off the COVID IR at some point. He'll be the 5th guy in that group. I'm just glad Darian Thompson did not take Israel Mukuamu's roster spot ultimately. That was the key for me. Probably the biggest thing heading into yesterday's roster cuts was making sure Darian Thompson did not make this roster. I'm not rooting against him. Like I want to make sure that it's known I'm not rooting for someone's failure. I think that's one of the things that NFL fans don't really realize are doing during this time of year. Like Ben DiNucci gets cut. Oh yeah, Ben DiNucci got cut. Let's go. Darian Thompson gets cut. Oh yeah, let's go. We didn't need him anyways. He's been here for too long. I'm not doing that. Okay, don't do that. But I what I'm saying is I'm just glad he didn't take a roster spot from anyone you're seeing on your screen right now. I still like Darian Thompson as a special teamer. The Cowboys said, we're cutting you, but at some point, if you're still out there, we might bring you back, and I wouldn't be opposed to it because injuries do happen, and there's going to be an opportunity for Darian Thompson to make his way back onto this roster if, like I said, he's still out there. But making this roster right now with guys like Israel Mukuamu, who balled out, with guys like Malik Hooker, who are going to slowly develop their way into the lineup, DeMonte KZ, who showed out, Jaron Kearse, who showed out, who was the other guy we had on there, Donovan Wilson. How could I forget? Had a great year last year. There was just no room ultimately for Darian Thompson. But like I said, Cowboys like him. I'm not opposed to him coming back at some point later on in the year. Special teams. We mentioned they dropped Jake McQuaid, but like I said, he'll probably come back. So right now, the only special teamers you have outside of C.J. Goodwin, who we already went over, true special teamers listed as so on the depth chart, Greg Zuerlein and Brian Anger, Johnny Hekker, a lot of people thought that he would kind of make his way over to Dallas if I forget who has him, I believe it's the Rams who have him, I could be wrong, cut him, but his contract ended up getting restructured, so he's going to stay with whoever he's with. So the Cowboys are rocking with Brian Anger as their punter. All right, I want to go over some cuts real quick, starting with the quarterbacks. If they have an R next to the name, that means they were released, like straight up, they're free agents. If they have a W next to the name, that means they're going through waivers, and unless claimed, they will likely end up on the practice squad. So let's start with the quarterbacks. One of these two guys, if not both, could definitely end up back on the practice squad. Garrett Gilbert, Ben DiNucci. I think the likely candidate is Ben DiNucci, simply because of the relationship he has with our head coach, Mike McCarthy. And for some reason, the Cowboys like him just like they like Terrence Steele. They like him enough to have put him in games this preseason where he could have been potentially deciding it, knowing good and well he wasn't going to make this roster as the second quarterback. So I could definitely see Ben DiNucci back on this practice squad. I wouldn't be opposed to it. He's still young. He's got mobility. A lot of people don't realize he has speed because they're so worried about all the picks he throws, and that's a big deal. I don't blame you. Turnovers are the most forbidden thing in the NFL, but another year on the practice squad, or not, this would technically be his first year. Another year with the team, this year just on the practice squad, couldn't hurt, I'm not opposed to it. Running backs, Jaquan Hardy, Brendan Knox. Neither of these guys are NFL ready. If they were, they would be the third running back on the team right now, but neither of them are. We already went over Nick Ralston. I like him. I hope he's on this roster next week. Wide receivers, most of these guys, if not all of them, will end up on the practice squad. You got Aaron Parker, Osiris Mitchell, Brandon Smith, Johnny Dixon, and Reggie Davis. I can pretty much guarantee you that Aaron Parker and Osiris Mitchell will be. I don't know about the other three. That's still up in the air. Tight ends, Jeremy Sprinkle. Now, we don't know what the Cowboys are going to do at that third tight end spot. Obviously, Sean McKeon is going to end up on the in-season IR at some point today. Could they bring back Jeremy Sprinkle? We don't know yet. We don't know the length of Sean McKeon's injury. We don't know how long he's going to be out. Jeremy Sprinkle is not a pass catcher. He's more of a blocker, so that could benefit the Cowboys. I wouldn't be surprised to see him back in uniform next Thursday in Tampa Bay. Nick Eubanks and Artavius Lynn, not much to say there. I don't know much about him. Can't tell you really anything. I have to imagine one of them is probably going to end up on the practice squad, though. Eric Smith and Isaac Alarcon. Let's talk about Isaac Alarcon because Eric Smith was straight up released and his NFL career is probably over. But Isaac Alarcon, a little shocked that he didn't make this roster. And I wouldn't be surprised if he gets claimed at some point or if he hasn't already gotten claimed because he's not too bad. Very versatile. Reminds me a lot of Brandon Knight, just with more potential. I don't like Brandon Knight from a talent perspective. I think Isaac Alarcon should have made this roster over a guy like Terrence Steele, but we all know the Cowboys coaching staff has this weird affection for Terrence Steele that no one can really explain. Terrence Steele, in a lot of people's eyes, is not a good offensive tackle, and there's no reason I think he should be on an NFL 53-man roster right now, but he is. I mean, the Cowboys liked him enough to say, hey, dude, go block number 99 on the Rams, Aaron Donald, last year in the season opener. And that was just, it blew my mind. I still to this day do not understand why they did that or understand why they like him so much. So it kind of triggered me seeing Isaac Alarcon on waivers and not on this 53-man roster and not Terrence Steele going through waivers. But it is what it is. Cowboys going to Cowboys. I don't want to get too hung up on it. I really like Isaac Alarcon. I hope he makes it through waivers and gets onto the practice squad because I could definitely see him get elevated as soon as week 2, week 3, if not maybe even week 1. We just don't know yet. There's so many injuries and health issues with this offensive line. Keeping a guy like Alarcon young, promising, showed a lot of great things in camp and in the preseason. To have him go through waivers is pretty risky in my opinion. And like I said, I wouldn't be surprised if he's on another team or if he gets claimed by another team, I should say, in the next few hours. Who do we got next? Guard center, Braylon Jones. He's expected to be on the practice squad once he clears waivers. Defensive ends. Not even going to try and say that dude's last name. Rondell Carter, kind of like Isaac Alarcon. Would be surprised if he makes it through waivers. Wouldn't be surprised if he got scooped up already or is going to get scooped up in these next few hours. I don't necessarily look at him in the same light as far as making this roster. I had him more of as a practice squad body myself heading into these roster cuts, but if he makes it through, great. I'd love to have him on the practice squad. I've got a lot of promise. If a lot of guys were to go down at the defensive end position, he could potentially make a return to the Cowboys 53-man roster. I don't know if he's been on that 53 at any point yet, but if he has, he'll make a return at some point this year if some injuries are to happen. Justin Hamilton, we already talked about, is potentially returning to the Cowboys for the first few weeks of the season until Neville Gallimore comes back. Deontay Burton, another guy whose career in the NFL is probably done, especially after that awful performance against the Jacksonville Jaguars on Sunday. Already talked about Darian Thompson, Steven Parker, Tyler Cole. Those two guys will probably end up on the practice squad. And then we've mentioned Jake McQuaid many times thus far in this stream. All right, that is about everything I got for you guys in today's stream, video, whatever. If you enjoyed, don't forget to drop a like, leave a comment, and subscribe. I got probably another video coming out today on Cam Newton's situation, how it relates to the Dallas Cowboys. We'll go a little more in depth on that. As far as what's coming out tomorrow, a Hard Knocks recap. It's going to be coming out a day late just because I'm grinding today. And then on Friday, special stream for you guys. I will reveal what it is probably at the end of the later video today. So y'all keep your eyes peeled for that video if you want to see what the special stream on Friday is going to be. Like I said, that is everything I've got for you. Let me know down in the comments below your thoughts on the finalized 53-man roster that was submitted yesterday, how you think it's going to change, what you thought about, how I thought it was going to change. Actually, real quick before I end this off, I forgot to mention some names to potentially look out for. Guys like Jacob Hollister, a tight end released by Buffalo. Devonta Freeman, a running back released by New Orleans. Peyton Barber, a running back released by the football team. Mike Daniels had success with Green Bay a long time ago. Released recently by Cincinnati, defensive tackle. Potentially, if they don't like Justin Hamilton, look for him to join the Dallas Cowboys. But now that's everything I got for you. My apologies. Forgot to mention all that stuff. But yeah, like I said, if you enjoyed, don't forget to drop a like, leave a comment, and subscribe. I will see you guys later today.
Donkey.